Good evening. You're just in time for NTV Weekend Edition. Ahead on the bulletin. Tonight, impunity kills again.
The driver was a bit faster and overtaking carelessly.
Sogea death toll rises to 12 as survivors heap blame on deceased driver for speeding.
Also tonight, detectives hunt for clues in gruesome murder.
He was an open guy, I can say. He was talkative. I've never seen anything suspicious about him.
A house where main suspect Joy Rungu used to live, searched by police as fiancé Jackie Maribe spent second night in custody awaiting charges on Monday.
Plus, DP Ruto takes aggressive stance against the handshake.
If you think you're going to use the handshake to export conmanship into our party, we are telling you that's not going to happen. Fanyeni kazi ingine ya maana.
As he signals in the most public fashion yet that he will battle Raila Odinga.
Kama ulidanganyana sijui siku za KANU, ukadanganyana sijui siku za code, ukadanganyana sijui wakati wa NASA, hapa Jubilee hakuna nafasi ya kudanganyana, my friend.
Also tonight, an NTV special. The mighty Mara River is in a fight for its life and it may lose the battle. NTV special, The Mara's Deathbed, airs tonight.
NTV Weekend Edition with Trevor Ombija and Zainab Ismail.
Thank you so much for making time to join us. Our sign language interpreter this evening is David Agondoa. But to begin this bulletin on a sad note, where 12 people died in an early morning accident after a bus they were traveling in collided with a trailer on the Nakuru-Naivasha highway. 6 people were critically injured. NTV's Muranga has more from that.
The remains of a Climax coach's bus that started its journey to Nairobi from Mbale in Vihiga County around 2 p.m. on Saturday. But the journey was cut short when they got to this spot in Gilgil along the Nakuru-Naivasha highway. The bus collided with a trailer. Some of the survivors blamed the bus driver who died in the accident for it.
The driver was a bit faster and overtaking carelessly. But Zuria was on the left-hand side of the bus. Na watu ambao walikuwa on the right-hand side wamekufa wengi sana.
The driver was overspeeding and he wanted to reach Nairobi as early as possible. He could not adhere to their calls to reduce the speed.
Among the passengers of this bus were members of the African Divine Church ADC who are from burying one of their own. Some of the members were among family and friends who gathered at the Gilgil Sub-County Hospital mortuary to identify their loved ones and ferry their bodies to Nairobi.
Nilipigiwa simu sana na usiku, simu ya kwanza wakisema ajali imefanyika lakini watu wameumia. Okay, simu ya pili ikuja saa 9. So ndio hapo tukachukua pikipiki tukaamua kuja paka hapa.
Wakati nimefika huku nikienda Nakuru, nikifika hapa Gilgil wakaniambia wamepeleka watu Nakuru. Kufika Nakuru naambiwa yeye amekufa, wamemrudisha huko.
Wamekufa washirika wetu wa kanisa 5 ATC. Walisafirisha maiti chusi wakipeleka nyumbani, ndio walikuwa na ruti.
It is at this spot in Sogea Gilgil where the accident happened at around 2 a.m. According to the area OCPD, the bus driver was trying to overtake another vehicle before colliding with an oncoming truck that was headed to Nakuru. We also understand that the bus left Mbale town in Vihiga County at around 2 p.m. and it had several stops along the way.
Only those with minor injuries were treated at Gilgil Hospital and discharged. Those in critical condition were taken to Nakuru Level 5 Hospital.
6 seriously injured who were rushed to PGH Nakuru, and there were 8 slight injuries who were managed at Gilgil Sub-County Hospital.
4 of those receiving treatment in Nakuru requested to be moved to Nairobi so that they can be close to their family members. Sharon Baranga, NTV in Gilgil, Nakuru County.
Well, our prayers and condolences goes out to the family and friends of all those who lost their loved ones. This is another story we're following up for you. TV journalist Jackie Maribe is likely to face charges of being an accessory to the murder of Monica Kimani. A neighbor is also likely to face charges alongside the TV journalist, raising the number of suspects in the case to 3.
NTV's Seth Olale with the details and revelations of a house the suspect used to live in Buruburu Estate.
Investigations indicate that the main suspect in the murder of Monica Kimani burnt the clothing he was wearing on the night of the murder, and that the part of the robe he was wearing did not get completely burnt. The suspect is said to have burnt the items in Langata. There were other items burnt alongside the robe. Police believe the suspect confessed this information to his fiancée and that she withheld it from them. Police also suspect that Irungu shot himself in the shoulder in a toilet at the Langata home, an act they cannot fully explain but which they believe may have been attempted suicide. The weapon Irungu used was given to a neighbor and recovered by police on Saturday after a confession from a housemaid. The neighbor will face charges in court too. These discoveries and inconsistencies in the testimony provided in statements by the journalist and the suspect have prompted the journalist's arrest and looming legal action. Meanwhile, when we visited the residential area where murder suspect Joseph Irungu briefly stayed in Buruburu Phase 3 last at court, we found his former neighbors still discussing the brutal murder that occurred on September 20th in Kilimani. It's at this house where neighbors say Irungu, aka Joey, lived with his 3 male friends from last year.
He was an open guy, I can say. He was talkative, he was social, because all that time he has been there, we have been talking like good friends. I've never seen anything suspicious about him.
Irungu's former neighbors also believed he was a security officer, offering VIP protection to politicians, and that he was actively involved in last year's election campaigns.
I came to know him through our neighbors, exactly. By that moment he was staying there, he was coming, he was traveling a lot, especially wakati wa elections. He was all over doing the job of security to our politicians who are Mombasa. Alafu sasa anakuja like anakaa 1 week, anaenda, anakaa like a month, anakuja, anaenda. Yes, like that.
The current occupant of the house where Irungu was residing denied associating himself with the murder suspect that is now in police custody, despite some neighbors stating he was one of his friends. The tenant says he moved into the house end of July and had no idea of the previous occupant. Seth Olale, NTV.
And away from that into some politics now, and Deputy President William Ruto has fired a warning shot at Raila Odinga, warning him that he will not sit by as the handshake between the ODM party leader and President Uhuru Kenyatta is weaponized to edge him out of power.
Well, speaking in Mombasa, where he issued title deeds, the Deputy President said he had been betrayed once before by Odinga when he was forced out of the Orange Democratic Movement and had learnt his lesson. Ruto made his position clear as Odinga's ODM revived debate on the question of a referendum, making the case for a change from a presidential system of government to a parliamentary one.
Once bitten, twice shy is the explanation Deputy President William Ruto gave on Sunday for his mistrust of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and the truce he entered into with President Uhuru Kenyatta following the contested 2017 presidential election. Speaking frankly, the Deputy President, who has previously put a brave face on the threat the handshake poses to his 2022 presidential ambitions, insisting that it had not altered the dynamics within the Jubilee Party, admitted for the first time that indeed it had.
Hamuwezi kunifukuza ODM ati mkanifuata ati mnanifukuza Jubilee. Haiwezekani. So if you think you are going to use the handshake to export conmanship into our party, we are telling you that's not going to happen. Fanyeni kazi ingine ya maana.
Odinga's political track record of betraying those who get into bed with him, Ruto said, speaks for itself and therefore makes him an untrustworthy political ally and one to be closely observed.
Kama ulidanganyana sijui siku za KANU, ukadanganyana sijui siku za code, ukadanganyana sijui wakati wa NASA, hapa Jubilee hakuna nafasi ya kudanganyana, my friend.
The Deputy President effectively communicating that he is ready for a fight in the race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta, and any effort to rob him of that opportunity would be met with resistance.
I want to tell our friends, we know what the handshake is, but we are very clear about what it is not. Tuko macho bwana, tunawajua. Tunaelewana? Kuna upungufu mkubwa wa watu wajinga Kenya hii siku hizi.
Ruto's plainly worded statement follows the move by Odinga's ODM to reintroduce the electoral reform agenda with a view to replace the current presidential system of government with a parliamentary one.
Inclusivity cannot be addressed unless we tackle the system of government. We must turn back to a system of a parliamentary system of democracy if you are going to have inclusivity.
Ruto's statement Sunday could signal an end to the pussyfooting that has been witnessed between the Deputy President's allies, for whom the handshake did not sit well, and the Odinga side opposed to a Ruto presidency. And it remains to be seen if President Uhuru Kenyatta's goodwill alone will be enough to keep the two sides from going at each other's throats. Olive Barrows, NTV.
So there's been a lot of reaction over the issue surrounding referendum, and Amani National Congress Party leader has also spoken about it. He's saying Jubilee has failed to fight graft and therefore referendum is not the right time for it. And that forms the basis of the question we're also asking you tonight. Do you support the referendum calls? We'll be bringing you the update on the Amani National leader just in a few minutes from now. But the main question is, do you support the referendum calls that are currently ongoing? You can tweet at Zainab Ismail with a Z-E-Y, at Trevor Ombija, or text 20686 and then we'll get all the details. And there's a lot of it coming through even as we speak right now. We have one of them, Nico Biward, says the constitution has proven to be very expensive. I will vote for change. And Mr. Moses here in Lichu Njenga says no, it's meant to benefit the MPs and make them monsters and dictators. And my friend, we haven't seen yet or experienced as Kenyans the worst form of dictatorship on record, its parliamentary system.
Indeed, and you can also tweet us on our official Twitter handle at NTV Kenya, at Zainab Ismail, Z-E-Y, as well as Trevor Ombija. We'll be able to sample some of those views during the course of this bulletin. But away from that, Muranga Senator Irungu Kangata now says Nairobi Water Company should remit 40% of the revenue generated from water drawn from Muranga back to the county. He said the 25% being demanded is very little compared to the quantity of the water which goes to the capital, which is Nairobi.
Well, the senator said he supports the demand by Governor Mwangi wa Iria to have part of the revenue given back to Muranga to facilitate various development projects there.
Muranga Senator Irungu Kangata says he agrees with Governor Iria that Nairobi County should pay for water drawn from Muranga. The senator has, however, faulted the way this agenda is being driven, saying it should be done through legislation by the county assembly. Speaking after gracing Kangare MCA Charles Kahoro's Thanksgiving at Kangare Catholic Church, he said the assembly holds the key to end the water wrangles, which have been raging in the county for quite some time.
Sisi wakaaji wa Muranga tunasema ni kweli tuko supposed kulipwa pesa za maji, lakini tunasema ya kwamba tunataka asilimia ambayo ni asilimia mzuri, na kwangu mimi naonelea asilimia 40% ndio mzuri. La pili, mimi nasema afadhali MCAs watumie njia za kisheria, waende katika assembly wapitishe hiyo sheria. Mimi najua kama maandamano hiyo sio suluhu iko kutumia ile nguvu ambayo assembly imepewa na kitu kinaitwa katiba.
He at the same time said he has conveyed a meeting for stakeholders which he hopes will achieve a solution to the wrangles. Muranga County Assembly Majority Leader Eric Amande said they had come up with a team that will work together with the Assembly Water Committee to formulate laws to end the water wrangles.
Kuna maneno mengi ambayo tumefanya, lakini lile limebaki ni kwenda kwa wananchi kuwapelekea yenye tuko nayo, na wao watuambie wanataka tufanye nini ili hiyo katiba ama hiyo sheria ikuwe imeambatana na katiba. So kwa muda wa mwezi moja hiyo maneno yetu tutakuwa tumefanya.
Kitu ya kwanza ningeomba majority leader mtupangie tuweze kupita na hiyo bill, tuipitishe hiyo mambo ya maji tumalize.
The leaders maintained that they will not relent on the demand for revenue for water drawn by Nairobi County. Among the proposals by the County Assembly was the establishment of a county water fund that would be managed by a board that would determine how the collected funds would be used. Martin Mora, NTV, Muranga County.
All right, and at this point we'll be taking a very short break here on NTV Weekend Edition, but a very special report.
Have you ever been to the Mara, Zainab?
No.
Maybe you should go there now. I'm sure some of you have been there. And by the way, the Mara River is currently dying out. And if nothing is done, it will completely diminish. There will be nothing to see. Zainab here will not be able to see it.
Well, I think I have before.
Find out why in just a few.
All right, welcome back to the bulletin. Now, from July to about October every year, millions of wildebeests make their perilous journey between the Mara and the Serengeti across the deadly Mara River, battling the tide and the waiting predators. This annual stampede is one of nature's most spectacular events.
But now the mighty Mara River is on a fight for its life and it's seemingly losing the battle. Tonight, we assess the damage done on this fragile ecosystem and that, if not urgently corrected, could spell the end for the eighth wonder of the world. Sheila Sendeo has the story.
For millions of years have been the theatre of one of nature's greatest wonders. traveling from the verdant green escarpments in the freezing cold and through the fields of food to the scorched plains in the arid lands, lending a hand to 2 countries, millions of people, and an assortment of wildlife. I'm gentle, yet harsh. I flow in stillness and in disarray. I give life, but I also take it. People love me, my beauty, my power. But I don't think I can give anymore. I am tired, tapped. The battle to strap my soul has been won and lost. I am the Mara River, and I am dying. Every year between July and September, when the grass has shriveled and the springs are parched, thousands of restless wildebeests scan the air for distant scents of rain. From the broad grasslands of the Serengeti in Tanzania, the thousands of them rumble into the Masai Mara National Reserve, a crucial fortress of grass and water for that season. And on a dusty strip of road, hundreds of curious visitors take the rock-ribbed path leading to the Masai Mara Game Reserve, drawn to the hungry and thirsty nature's travelers. For the migrating animals, danger lies ahead. A good number of them fall to the predators. But the Mara River is another formidable barrier on their annual journey. They have to scramble down one bank and up another, battling the fast-moving waters and the predators that hide in them. For the visitors, this is the stage for what's routinely referred to as the 8th wonder of the world. But this year, something has been missing from the parade.
Kwa majina anaitwa JJ Jackson Japit. I'm the general manager of Darpoi Tended Community Camp. Then the Mara was beautiful. The river was flowing like nobody's business. The river was so big. We used to see a lot of migration in the months of July till September. The water have gone down. Even in this season, many tourists never enjoyed a lot because the river is so, I don't know the way I can call it, small, or maybe the water is gone off.
We wanted to see the migration around the Mara River, but we can see crossing the river. Maybe the next time.
Joseph Teya works at the Sekenani camp as a ranger. He's been in the Mara for most of his life, and for him, the great wildebeest migration is losing its allure. What was once a great leap into the unknown is now a short, grateful hop across a mere winding belt of mud.
Muda yote mimi nimekuwa Mara, wamekuja kuona changes ya Mara. Sababu samani Mara River ni maji ni mingi sana. Siku hizi tunaona Mara River maji yamekatika mara mbili. Kuona katikati ya maji ni mchanga tu unaonekana. Naona crossing mzuri sababu ya maji. Sio tu kuona ati sababu ngunu naruka nafuka laga. Ngunu wakiruka kuja kutoka Tanzania kuingia Masai Mara. Naona napita maji kubwa sana kwa nguvu mpaka naona tu nafurahia hata wakianza kuona crossing nafurahia. Lakini siku hizi tunaona ngunu nafuka tu lakini hakuna maji mingi napita. Nakuja tu mzuri sana nafuka tu polepole. Hapo wanyama anakanga kwa maji kama crocodile na hippo kwa Mara River. Bali kiangazi nakuja naona nakuwa jua napika sana sababu hakuna maji ya kulalia.
The Mara River is a 395-kilometer long waterway connecting the Masai Mara with the Serengeti in Tanzania. It's one of the drainage basins that feed into the Lake Victoria. Conservationists now worry what's happening amounts to an ecological disaster.
Tourists always come here for migration, mostly. And what is worrying most is that Mara River is going to its end. In the next 5 to 10 years, we have no Mara River, neither tourists coming to this country. Masai Mara, what always brings the tourists is the migration. Because I suppose in Botswana there is lion, in Namibia there is lion, there is elephants, but the main thing that has made Mara to be much more famous is the migration that always took place from July to almost November. Very soon, if nothing will be done on an immediate effect, we shall cry as a country. It shall become a big shame for the children, generations to come, to be told we used to have Masai Mara and no more.
The answers to the riddle of the Mara's dwindling waters lie upstream, up a treacherous terrain and onto the lofty peaks of the Mau Forest escarpments.
People can see just through their naked eyes that Mara River is dying. Cutting trees everywhere, leaving the forest to be like a bear. You can't even believe how Mau Forest look like.
The life-giving veins of the Mara River spring up from the Enapuyapui swamp at the heart of the Kiptunga Forest block in the eastern Mau Forest complex. The wetland is an amassment of reeds that act as a water reservoir, especially during the rainy seasons. But it's wasting away.
Venye tunaelewa hapa ndio source ya River Mara ni Enapuyapui. Sisi tukiwa watoto wadogo tunajua hapa sasa Enapuyapui hapa iwezi pitika. Hapo ilikuwa na maji mingi. Hapo kulikuwa na mashini ya maji, which means ilikuwa ina supply maji hapa Kiptunga Forest kwa maafisa wa serikali wa Kiptunga. Wakati ya kiangazi inapokuja, unaona maji inasonga mpaka labda inabaki tu kwa maji kidogo hapa mahali unaona. Lakini hapo zamani hata kiangazi yenye ilikuwa inakuja ina gani, ilikuwa tu inakuta iko na maji mingi sana.
The swamp was once surrounded by a fence of indigenous trees.
Usione Enapuyapui kama ni hapa tu. Hapa wote ilikuwa msitu. Mpaka huko chini kulikuwa na mianzi. Na ilikuwa inafuruta mvua hata kutoka Nakuru. Na ilikuwa inanyesha mingi kulika hata wakati. Sasa hii ni sosa.
The rising population of forest dwelling communities is also one of the biggest threats to the forest and the wetlands within it.
Kitambo msitu ilikuwa mingi. Na haikuwa watu hawakuwa wameishi ndani sana. Kulikuwa na watu tu hawa community ndio walikuwa wanaishi kwa msituni. Na wakati hiyo hawakuwa na biashara mingi kwa msituni. Walikuwa tu ni kufuga nyuki na kuyaka hiyo msinga. Na hata ulanguzi wa msituni hawakuwa wakati hiyo mingi. Venye saizi kwa saizi biashara imekuwa inaendelea kwa msitu. Venye watu wanaendelea kuishi msitu, venye maji inaendelea kwenda chini.
Nicholas Murero, the chairman of the Narok County Natural Resources Network, says in the last 20 years, more than a quarter of the forest has been decimated by human development, agricultural activity, and a booming trade in timber. The water that runs from it is now increasingly less in flow and much lower in quality.
The next 3 years, no Mara, hakuna Mara tena. Ukiangalia saa hii sehemu hizi misitu imekatakata sana. Kwa hiyo msitu kuna miti ambayo inahifadhi maji na kuna nyingine inakunywa maji. Ile imebaki ni ile ya kumaliza maji. Na tena sana kama ingewezekana wangepewa kukate karibu na source. Wangeenda mbali kabisa. Mbali na source. Inatakikana tupane indigenous tree kule. Kwa sababu hiyo msitu wa Mau si ya kupanda miti kutoka mbali. Tujaribu kutafuta ile indigenous trees ambayo imekuwa kwa hiyo msitu.
The Mau Forest is the country's largest remaining indigenous forest and also the largest of the country's 5 water towers. But environmental experts estimate that between 1990 and 2001, up to 107,000 hectares of the Mau Forest complex had been destroyed. By 2009, more than a quarter of the 400,000 hectare forest had been lost to the axe. And the plunder continues. More than 8,000 people were driven out of the forest in the first phase of the evictions. Now the second phase, targeting thousands more in the eastern bloc, looms.
wanasiasa ndio wanaleta shida yote, kwa sababu sidhani msitu wa Mau watu walikaa kazaliwa pale. Hakuna mtu ajui alitoka wapi.
The battle for the Mau has been as political as it has been environmental. Deep in the last swaths of trees that make up the Mau Narok is the conflict's latest flashpoint. Tensions have flared, the fires of confrontation have been lit, and violence has descended on the people living at the center of it.
Now you are hearing people say, because people are fighting, let us put on hold the second phase of the evictions. That should tell you something. They said I'm a very small person, and it is true. But only God is big. We're all human beings, isn't it? Yeah. What can they do to me? Maybe other than maybe do what? Sack me?
The smoke that swirls from afar is hardly a smoke screen for the unease that has been building up in pockets of the Mau forest. In the month of September alone, 10s have been killed, many more injured in what has been referred to as a clash between communities. With the fires of a looming face-off between the government that insists forest glades have to be protected on one hand, and communities who've made homes in the thinning forest cover on the other have been lit. These families are among the 40,000 settlers targeted for eviction out of the 46,000-hectare Masai Mau forest, one of the 23 blocks of the Mau complex.
Those people have got no idea the kind of damage they are causing downstream, because it rains almost all the year. They plant, they harvest, they plant again. They have got no idea. Whatever they are doing has got repercussions on other people downstream, including other countries. People are saying there's clashes now in Narok. You wait until they start now fighting properly over resources, because they will. These people are herders, and the animals depend on water. Yeah, so we're just being wise. Yeah, and not being wise. If being wise is a bad thing, then I'm prepared to be called a bad person.
Many of the families have simply refused to leave. They claim to have genuine titles to the land within the forest.
You cannot say that title deed is legal when the process of getting that title is not legal. At the end of the day, what you have is just a piece of paper. Can you honestly say that title deeds in that part of this county are doing what the title is supposed to do? And if they are not doing that, why are they not doing that? It's because they are not legal documents. Yeah, you cannot go to the bank and borrow money using those title deeds.
But a report by the Ministry of Environment, tabled in Parliament in August, details how government officials, politicians and other influential persons hived off chunks of the forest land and sold it to unsuspecting individuals. They irregularly increased the sizes of the group ranches far beyond into the forest boundaries.
Kama kuna wenzetu wa Masai ambao wameuza Mau forest, mimi nasema mwenyewe, kama ulijua umeuziwa na fulani kama ni Nicholas, kuja kwangu katiwa shamba yangu, sasa mimi ndio nikudanganyia mali ifai, niambia sasa niko hapa na watoto, nikatia sehemu yangu, hakuna jingine.
The Masai Mara depends on the Mara River. The Mara River comes from Masai Mau. You mess up with the Masai Mau, there's no Masai Mara. There's no Masai Mara, there's no tourism. It's even going to affect Tanzania, not just Kenya. Yeah, so we have to be very careful about some of these issues. They've got serious security implications. Last year, in fact, for the last 3 years, there have been a serious drought in this place. Yeah, and even rivers dried up. People who carry out irrigation on the Wasonyiro River, and people who had the animals downstream began finding out what was happening with the rivers, and they were moving upwards. They were going to come face to face with those farmers in the Masai Mau, and there will be war. These are facts.
As the battle for the soul of the Mara rages, this lifeblood of the Mara Serengeti ecosystem is in its sunset days, and the odds are stacked against the species of this massive ecosystem. The wildlife here needs a vast dispersal area to survive seasons of drought, but these safe havens are fast disappearing.
Whenever now you go to the Mara, you can see many camps, these standard camps. And again, I think they have a problem. They drain sewages, and I think it can as well even affect the river.
The lodges have erected kilometers of electric fencing, cutting off traditional migratory routes and dispersal areas for wildlife. The wildebeest population has also declined, and even though they're not yet a threatened species, they are a keystone species, and a lot lies on their existence. But the signs are more ominous to the north of the Mara, where a smaller wildebeest migration from the Loiter Plains has very nearly stopped. While the wildlife numbers decline, the resident human population is ballooning. Residents who complain about not benefiting from the Mara billions have resorted to charcoal burning and farming. And for a place that once was seemingly untouched by time, the environment is displaying symptoms of its mismanagement.
The first challenge is increasing pollution. Also, it attracts many tourists, such that the park will not accommodate the big number as such settlement. We used to have group ranches, but now it is individual lands. And also the increase of the mushrooming camps and lodges.
The strategic plan for the management of the Masai Mara National Reserve is still very much a draft document that was first put together in 2007 by the now defunct Narok and Transmara County Councils. But from the luxury camps and lodges, the appeal of the Great Crossing continues to draw in visitors. The constant revenue stream for the county government has at the moment and seemingly insulated the community from the harsh reality. According to the Narok County Development Plan 2018 to 2022, revenue from the Masai Mara accounts for 90% of the total revenue sources. Between 2013 to 2017, the county government made 5.8 billion shillings from the Mara. But the fleet of tourist vehicles haven't quite been getting the spectacle that they came for.
Actually, I think there is a lot of interference. So the crocodiles will also soon extinct on the banks of the Mara River, because before some years back there used to be so many. We used to know identified spots where you can go and maybe have a few of more than maybe 50 crocodiles, sunbasking in the same point, but not anymore.
We do have lots of repeat clients, and of course they see the changes. Masai Mara is being sold by word of mouth. If people come here and see, like in after 2 years, they come and see Mara River is dry up. That's the same word got back to worldwide, and they'll again say, don't go to Kenya, because I don't think there's anything else that you can see now. So let's go to Namibia, or let's go to Botswana, or Tanzania. Serengeti is our neighboring country here.
In the interim, the crossing into the Mara from the Serengeti continues, even though there isn't much of a river to cross.
Hawa wanyama ni wa ajabu sana. Kama ujaenda pia kuweza kutembelea wakati wanavuka, ukiona kweli watu wanashinda siku mzima kuangalia watavuka saa ngapi, hata wakuli. Wengine hata wanalala karibu kwenye mto. Kabisa kulala siku mbili ili make sure ameona tu ikivuka.
But in the long term, the warning signs are out. Profound choices have to be made, as the great wildebeest migration isn't great anymore, and soon it will just be no more. Sheila Sendeo, NTV.
Well, absolutely fantastic reporting there by Sheila Sendeo. And there's a lot of massive response on Twitter. The hashtag using is Mara Deathbed. I'll sample some of them for you. There's such a bleak future being painted there. Kevin Cheriot says the government should put measures in place to conserve water catchment areas. of River Mara. The hashtag is using there is Mara deathbed, and we still have more here. Kevin M. Minor says, sad story that in the next 5 to 10 years, Mara will not be there. All factors which have affected the ecosystem should be corrected urgently. More indigenous trees to be planted. It will be a great shame to Kenya if Mara won't overcome this battle. Let's reinstate our beauty. We still have more here. Kiprono Abraham Kogo says we cannot afford to lose the Mara River. Tourism sector will consequently decrease. We've killed agriculture. Let's not kill tourism as well. We still have more. Boniface Wanyoike says it's sad what has become of our eighth wonder. No one should be spared. Let everyone move out of Mara. We owe it to our future generations. And we still have Crispus Yankem. He says the story by Sheila Sendeo should be a wake-up call unless we are an ignorant society. Sad but excellent environmental journalism there by Sheila Sendeo. Absolutely. Elizabeth Watuti says our natural resources are diminishing due to human activities. We need to consume sustainably before nature hits back at us. And we have Faith Nanana says, honestly, the government must do something concerning the Mau forest. We can't lose Masai Mara and the foreign exchange it brings to this country. Sheila Sendeo, well done. That is a powerful story, the Mara deathbed there. And Dominic Mutambu says the only way to save May now is through co-management. The only safe way is through co-management, which entails involving the local community management of the forest resources. It can also involve local community groups adopting sections of the forest to save it and use the resources therein sustainably. I'll take one more here. Nick Oluwach says the Mau issue, just like riparian land issue, seems to have been forgotten. That's not strange, given that our leaders believe that rain comes from heaven and not the forest there. And Kivuvan Tanze says the amount of destruction we are responsible for in the Mara deathbed is 4 years. While taking a short break on NTV Weekend Edition, Zainab Ismail is on the other side of the studio. She still has a few more stories for you before we get into the sporting action. And remember that other question we asked you, whether you support the referendum calls. We'll be sampling some of your views as well in just a bit. Stay with NTV.
All right, and welcome back to the program and revisiting our earlier story where Amani National Congress party leader Musalia Mudavadi has lashed out at the government for not dealing with corruption as expected. Musalia has urged President Uhuru Kenyatta to ensure that those involved in corruption take responsibility.
Speaking during a church service at Langata Friends Church, the ANC leader indicated that as part of the accountability for the hefty public debt accrued, President Kenyatta should dismiss senior officials for misleading the country.
Taking responsibility or accountability is not necessarily locking somebody in jail. Bad policies that have caused anguish, even if it may not have been a criminal process, but it is a policy program that has put us in a state of despair. Mr. President, somebody must take responsibility.
Mudavadi further indicated that the country will not go to the rumored constitutional amendment referendum unless the current economic mess is sorted out.
And we will not be ready to go to a referendum until we have sorted out the IEBC. Because constitutionally, it's only the IEBC that has the mandate to conduct a referendum in this country.
However, Ijara Member of Parliament Sophia Abdinur took a swipe at Mudavadi, saying that he is the most corrupt and that he has no moral authority to lecture on matters corruption.
Musalia Mudavadi, under his docket, when he was the Minister for Finance, Golden Bag just happened under his nose.
Elsewhere, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka is opposed to a proposal to disband the Senate in a situation of a referendum. Addressing faithfuls at Kaseve Catholic Church in Mua Ward of Machakos County, the Wiper leader quashed the idea, saying it is against the spirit of devolution and representation.
I will stand and oppose any attempt to erode the benefits of devolution. If anything, we should strengthen the Senate. We should strengthen the National Assembly. But we shall have a very honest conversation.
Kalonzo urged Kenyans to support President Uhuru Kenyatta to achieve the fight against graft and uniting Kenya. Nurabulaziz, NTV.
Now, there is concern among Wajir residents following reports that bad sugar is on sale in the county. Out of 4 sugar samples sent for testing to the government laboratory, 1 sample has failed the moisture test and was below the recommended standard for human consumption.
Public health staff collected the samples from 4 different shops in the town on the 25th of June 2018 for testing at the government chemist.
Ile ambaye ile msuri sabana jua sasa. Hakuna alama sisi naweza kujua. Kwa hiyo John hii msuri, John hii ambaye.
That we were using for sampling and analyzing was 1 chemical contamination, copper, lead, mercury. That's what we wanted to be determined. 2 moisture content.
The result of the test were received on 10th of August, and upon return of the public health officers to the said shop, there was no trace of the sugar since it was consumed.
We took the sample. By the time we went back, that is from June, you can imagine, up to now, it's almost 3 months. Those consignments were not there.
Najua mimi maka yangu mingi sana, hata mimi nitaka kuhufi haraka haraka. Niweze kabalo na kama isha. Sitaki kitu niletee mimi magonjwa. Nataka kitu niletee mimi afya.
Sukari, bila sukari watu hawezi kuishi. Na afya, na ile kitu ni dhuru afya ya binadamu bana mzuri. Kwa hivyo ipimwe mzuri. Hiyo maneno ihakikishwe.
In a county where almost all locally consumed commodities cross from lawless neighboring Somalia with no government checks and inspections, there is a reason to be even more concerned for residents of Wajir. Nurdin Almoge, NTV, Wajir County.
And away from Wajir County, as Sharon Otieno's murder case continues, Rongo University Vice-Chancellor Professor Samuel Gudu held an interactive meeting with students at the institution, counseling them on the benefits of good morals. Gudu was also accompanied by Rongo Member of Parliament Paul Abor, urged his female students to stay focused on what brought them to the university, adding that they must exercise caution and avoid sponsors. This is after the recent murder case of Sharon Otieno, who was a student at the university. Migori Governor Okoth Obado and his personal assistant Michael Oyamo are the main suspects in the murder.
I would want my girls and the young girls, because they are our children, to maintain their dignity and live within their means. And always remember that they came here to study, not to look for anything else beyond study. And if they have to look for anything beyond the study, it must be something which add value to their lives.
We are putting our police post in Opapo Trading Center, that is East Kamagambo. We have another police post in North Kamagambo. And here, for the security of the students and the local community, we are putting a police post here in Kitare, which should be running by December, before we go for Christmas. It will be fully staffed with police.
Now, Prince William Arthur arrived in the country on Sunday and was received by Ambassador Rachel Omamo and British High Commissioner Nick Ailey, among others. The Duke of Cambridge landed in Forward Operating Base Suara in Laikipia County. He visited Irish Guards at the British Army Training Unit in Kenya before proceeding to the Kinamba School Project, a project of the British Army Training Unit in Kenya. Prince William is in the country to promote his project on wildlife conservation in Africa. He is scheduled to travel to Zambia and Tanzania as part of his tour in Africa.
So we're about to take a quick break here on NTV Weekend Edition. We'll be back with much more. But we asked you earlier whether you support the referendum calls, and to sample some of your views on Twitter here real quick. Masharia Mwangi says, yes, I support the referendum call, only that we will not allow these politicians to influence in the making the amendments, because we are wiser than before. We'll take time to read it thoroughly through. And we have more here. Angatia Ade says we need change because the current constitution has overloaded us. The taxpayers, nominated MCAs, MPs, etc. should not be there. I don't see what they represent, yet each ward constituency has its own elected leaders. So that's a yes. We have Philip Mtemi says let's try to do with what we have rather than spending too much time on another constitution, yet we can still amend what we have. It will be a waste of resources, and yet loopholes in the constitution is still a guarantee. And we still have more here. Josiski Rwani says the problem with the referendum is that the same numbers we're trying to reduce are the same numbers with the vote on the draft to vote on. It's uneconomical and a total waste of time. We did an irreversible mistake in 2010. We have to live with it now. And we still have more here. Joseph Wataka says, no, I don't support the referendum. These people are just power hungry. We already have a bloated wage bill and they just want to pile misery on Kenyans. And we have Kiprono Abraham Kogo who says Kenyans cannot be voting robots. They voted in 2005, 2007, 2010, 2012 and 2017. Can we ask them to go back to the ballot again? Most of the issues raised are meant to serve selfish interests of politicians. And we have Martin Emmanuel says we are never going to waste taxpayers' money anymore at the expense of a referendum. You can't change the law for your own selfish gains. We are tired. All right. And on that note, we take a short break in NTV Weekend Edition. We are not tired yet. We'll be back with more news in just a bit.
first ever win at the FIVB Women's World Championship. The national women's volleyball team was brought back crashing to earth with a straight set loss to Serbia in the second match. The Malkia strikers, who had powered to a historic straight set win over Kazakhstan in their opening match, meekly went down 25-16, 25-9 and 25-8. Kenya will face Puerto Rico on Monday, and Cameroon, who had started with a win, also lost in straight sets to Germany. The Malkia strikers, who are targeting to qualify for the second round, will also take on champions Brazil and Dominican Republic in their other preliminary matches. Gor Mahia, who secured their 17th title with 6 games to spare, were finally awarded the crown at the Moi Stadium in Kisumu. Kogalo, whose players have been on a go-slow due to unpaid salaries, halted a run of 3 losses on the trot by drawing 2-2 with Mathare United. Rwandan Jack Tuyisenge and Humphrey Mieno were on target for Gor Mahia, while Mathare's goals were scored by Klinsmann Omulanga and Clifford Nyakea. Gor will next face Zukericho and Tusker in the final matches of the 2018 season. In other KPL matches, Meshak Karani came off the bench to score twice as Sony Sugar beat Posta Rangers 2-0 at the Ruaraka grounds. At the Afra Stadium, Ulinzi Stars kept alive their dreams of finishing among the top 3 on the log with a 2-1 win over AFC Leopards. In other matches, second-placed Bandari went down 2-1 to relegated Wazito FC. Tusker beat Nzoia Sugar by a solitary goal. Sofapaka and Nakma drew 2-2 with Zoo Kericho as Zoo beat Thika United 2-1. Malawi Football Association President Walter Nyamilandu clinched the African representative seat to the FIFA Council member after beating 3 other candidates. Despite having campaigned vigorously, Kenya's Nick Mwendwa withdrew at the last minute in a decision he explained as forced onto him by the politics on the floor. Nyamilandu garnered 35 points to vote to defeat 35 votes to defeat South Africa FA President Danny Jordan by 17 votes. The FIFA Council seat, which is the 4th most powerful in the world football, became vacant following the resignation of Ghana's Kwesi Nyantakyi, who is currently fighting bribery allegations. And the national youth team bound for the World Youth Olympics scheduled for Buenos Aires in Argentina has received their official kit, that is from Nike, from the National Olympic Committee of Kenya. NOC Treasurer Anthony Kariuki and Deputy Secretary Francis Mutuku also confirmed that the delegation of 20 have all been paid their local and overseas allowances, and now the team that departs on Tuesday is all set for the games. The team also underwent an induction course on how to relate with the media that was conducted under the umbrella of Sports Journalists Association SJAC.
Kufunza hawa wanariadha chipukizi kuongea na media na kuwa na confidence wanapoongea, wanapotoka nje ama wanapokuwa kwa michezo yao.
And Veronica Rowe made history as the first ever lady winner of the car category of the CBA Africa Concours d'Elegance. Rowe's 1934 Rolls-Royce Boat-Tail needed just 1 point to beat the 1977 Nissan 160J of Sati Gata Aura. This year's edition of the Concours d'Elegance produced a new bike winner in Peter Giraudi, or rather Giraudu, in 1966 Triumph TRC S6, who beat the 1925 Triumph 550 SD. And Valtteri Bottas moved aside to let Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton win the Russian Grand Prix and surge 50 points clear in the Formula One Championship that is on Sunday with 5 races remaining. The victory was a landmark 70th for the Briton.
right, thank you so much for staying with NTV Weekend Edition. So this is not as serious as the value-added tax on fuel or anything, but we thought you should know. So if you've been thinking of shedding off some pounds but find it difficult due to lack of motivation, listen to this. In a remote corner of northwestern Spain, a small town has set itself the ultimate weight loss challenge.
By early 2020, its residents must shed off 100,000 kilos. More than 4,000 residents, or a tenth of the population, have joined the project as part of a slimming program that kicked off in January.
Well, to show their support, the mayor and her municipal councillors weighed themselves together in public on giant scales. Every now and then, they will come to the town's health centers to weigh themselves. Is that enough motivation for you, Zainab? No?
I think that's enough motivation when you have the entire town do that.
I'm not suggesting in any way that you should join the gym. I think you're okay the way you are.
It's okay. We shall settle this later. But you know, you will know you are lucky if you even survive a day lost in the sea or the ocean, and we don't know how much luck. Who survived 49 days adrift on a floating fishing platform, living off fish and seawater.
Aldi Novel Adilang was working as a lamp keeper on the Rompong, a floating platform used to catch fish, which was anchored to the seabed around 125 kilometers, that's about 78 miles out of sea from North Sulawesi province in Indonesia.
Now, strong winds on July 14th broke the platform's anchors and
I'm waiting for my joke before we call it a night.
Okay, fine. All right. But you promise you won't laugh because it's a dry joke.
No.
Right?
You're the queen of dry jokes.
Okay, fine. So let's say you have
They'll be
a
the judge, yes.
Okay, fine. So you have a
no
bee.
pressure.
All right. You're holding a bee in your hand, right?
Okay.
There it is. What is in your eye?
A bee.
A bee is in your hand.
That's what I'm seeing.
Eye?
What is my eyes? The bee that I'm looking at.
It's beauty. You know why?
Why?
Because beauty is in the eyes of the beholder.
No, I told you she's the queen of dry jokes.
All right, that brings us to the end of our bulletin this evening. Many thanks for keeping us company tonight. Our sign language interpreter was David Agondo. My name is Zainab. Good evening.
And I'm Trevor. Ombija. Good night. She'll have more of those jokes next weekend.